So I was elected to Minnesota State House in District 61B, which is South Minneapolis. And South Minneapolis is a place where probably half the children are living in poverty. It's 62% minority, majority African American, American Indian, Somali, Latino. And so it's a very progressive district, and it reminds me a lot of reservations that I grew up on, because you have people living in poverty. It's economically isolated, but then you have people that are living in the community that are teachers and social workers and work for labor organizations, and they're committed to. They live there because they want diversity, and they live there because they're committed to working for social and economic justice, so that's why I've been here for 14 years. You know, growing up in the let's go back to the first. It tells you a little bit about my election, but I was elected I'm the first American Indian woman to be elected to the Minnesota House. So there have been 9 men, and I think there's only 3 of them in this century, and so that was historic, and I think it was very empowering for a lot of Indian people in this state who aren't used to winning, aren't used to, we have, you know, a lot of candidates, elected officials in school boards and a couple in city council who had to overcome so much discrimination to get elected. You usually had to do it 2 or 3 times, run 2 or 3 times to get elected. And so my race was an example of how it should be. I mean, in our system. I mean, you know, we want to include more. But it was because of the district, because it's so progressive, and they wanted to elect somebody who was represented, who reflected the diversity of the district. So I had the DFL endorsement. I had endorsement from elected officials. I had like rock stars working on my campaign, and then I had endorsements from labor and schools and school unions. And so that is how you're in this system successful. And so I'm hoping that can sort of that can be a model for other Indian people in the state. Third gender were people who had maybe a little broader experience, that gender was something that was very fluid, and so the people who were gay or lesbian were honored or had a place. I mean, it wasn't and so we've lost that, and I think that I want to be able to start that dialogue and find a different way to talk about it. And then I don't know, the first American Indian lesbian Episcopalian to be priest kid to be elected. That would be and that had a huge you know, how did people ask, why did you run? How did you get here? Why did you run? And I would say growing up in the Episcopal Church is with my father as a priest and my mother working alongside of him, that they worked for economic and social justice, and that's what their ministry was about. It was about inclusion, it was about helping people to organize so that the church wasn't about them or the priest, that it was that they could have a ministry, a lay ministry, that they could, whether it was feeding people, meal programs, fighting burial money, protesting, or that was something that they learned how to do, and so we moved. By the time I was 14 years old, I'd gone to about 14 or 20 different schools in 5 or more states. And really that was their sort of model of ministry, was to go in a place and to organize and to move on. So that's what we did. So I think that whole, the way I think they had to work a lot to change the structure of the Episcopal Church as far as how Indian ministry. My father developed a new model for Indian ministry, and he addressed issues like pay inequality for Indian priests, which was huge, and so they decided very early on to stay in the church and to change it, and I think a lot of people that also wanted to work for social justice left the church early on because they saw that it was just, they didn't see how it could be changed. And so I give my parents a lot of credit for devoting so many years to and making changes and empowering others to make changes to. And so I look at running as a way to honor my parents, the work they did, and to continue that work. And so it's very important that I want to be able to do it as an out Episcopalian. So it's on my website, and so I'm proud of that. So.